See, do, get. That's the way Stephen Covey put it. How we see things determines what we do. What we do determines the results we get. And the results most of us get from whatever succession and estate planning we do is pretty bad. Only about a third of the people who want to pass their ranch on intact to the next generation are successful doing so. And it's not just about the assets. They often strain the relationships as well. Children estranged from their parents, siblings who only talk to one another through their attorneys. We can get better results. But to get better results, we need to do things differently. But to do things differently, we need to see things differently. We need to change our paradigms. Paradigms are mostly subconscious rules we have about things. We have paradigms on all sorts of things, on politics, on religion, on raising kids, and on raising livestock. And we have paradigms about succession and estate planning. I've spent more than 35 years working with ranchers on 5 continents, and I've seen what works, and I've seen what doesn't. And that's led me to form several paradigms about succession and estate planning. Now, I'm not saying that you need to accept all of my paradigms, but it might be helpful to challenge your beliefs about succession and estate planning if you want to keep the ranch and relationships intact and thriving well into the future. So, here are my paradigms on succession and estate planning. First, I believe that family is too important to mix business and family. Second, parents don't owe their adult children an inheritance or a job. And kids don't owe their parents their future. I think that the roles of ownership, management, and family are distinct, and that we start to get into trouble when we blur the boundaries between them. I believe that being part of the family does not entitle someone to own, manage, or even work in the family business. And family businesses ought to only hire family members if they're qualified to do the work. I believe that bringing adult children into the business too soon isn't good for the kids, it's not good for the parents, and it's definitely not good for the business. I believe that separating your life from your business physically and financially leads to a more successful business and a happier, healthier life. I think it's important to separate the operating business from the land investment, and that the operating business should pay market rate rent to the owners of the land. I know that tax avoidance is a leading cause of succession failure. One reason is that tax avoidance describes what we don't want. We don't want to pay taxes. Our plans ought to focus on what we do want. And after we figure that out, then we can worry about the taxes. I believe that dividing land among heirs is a crime against agriculture. Now, some experts disagree, but the fragmentation of ranches may be the single biggest challenge that we face to making our businesses profitable and to managing the land well. I believe the solution is in leaving ranches in undivided interest to our heirs, provided that we include some kind of buyout arrangement with a formula for valuing those shares. Let's say our ranch is worth $9 million and you are one of 3 heirs. What are your shares worth? It's not worth $3 million. Who's going to pay full market value for a minority share in a family business? No, your shares are worth some fraction of the market value. I believe that equal may not be fair, and equal is really hard to do. Look, each family member is different. It's natural and healthy to treat each one differently. I believe that every family business needs a family employment policy that lays out things like how and when family members will be brought into the business and how they'll be paid. I believe that relying on sweat equity is asking for trouble. Let's call sweat equity what it really is, deferred wages. And let's quantify those wages, because the people doing the sweating, they tend to exaggerate the value of their sweat, while other family members tend to minimize that value. I believe we need to make sure that the estate plan supports the succession plan. Too often I've seen estate plans that undermine what's in the succession plan. I believe that succession and estate plans have to be reviewed periodically and revised. I believe that adding an employee ought to increase the gross product at least 3 times the cost of that position, including positions held by family members. I believe that when you work inside your business, as most ranchers do, what you do tends to become who you are. And when what you do becomes who you are, it's very difficult to stop doing. That's why Stan Parsons said, you cannot retire from ranching. You have to retire to something else. I believe he was right. And I believe that retirement doesn't have to be an ending. It can be a beginning. I also believe it isn't healthy for the retired generation to be financially dependent on the ranch or their heirs. This is one reason why we shouldn't plow every penny we make back into the ranch. I believe that elders are a great asset, but olders are not always elders. I believe that inheritance is a gift, but I also believe that there's no such thing as a free gift. I also believe that gifting wealth will not make up for time or intimacy withheld. And I believe that expectations aren't enough. We need agreements. I believe everyone is owed honesty and transparency, that the younger generation deserves to know the older generation's plans, and the older generation deserves to know the younger generation's intentions. That's how I see things. See, do, get. How you see things determines what you do, and what you do leads to the results you get. If you want a great result from whatever succession and estate planning you do, maybe it's time you met with your family to discuss how you all see things. How do you see things, Daisy?